I don't believe in spiritual things. Ghosts, sixth sense, I thought all of that was just imagination. But my daughter said, "Mommy, there's a lady in the wall." I laughed. An imaginary friend, huh? But my daughter was serious. The lady saying, "Protect Mommy." And then 3 days later, the police came. I'll never forget what the officer said, "Ma'am, there's a body in your bedroom wall." 4 years ago, I got divorced and became a single mother. My daughter Sophie was only 2. I worked from home as a graphic designer, living with just the 2 of us in a small apartment. Money was tight, but I thought Sophie's smile was enough. A year ago, I met Mark as a client. A successful real estate agent, he was kind and good to Sophie. I felt like I could finally be happy. After 6 months of dating, we got married. After the wedding, the 3 of us started living together in Mark's apartment. Mark promised, "Someday we'll buy a house." Sophie took to her new daddy, and we spent happy days together. Then 3 days ago, Mark suddenly said, "I have a surprise." He'd bought a house. "I've been looking for you too." I was moved. A spacious living room, a bright kitchen, Sophie's very own room. Everything was perfect. But on moving day, Sophie stopped in front of the bedroom door. "Mommy, there's someone inside." I answered gently, "It's just us. This is our new home." Sophie shook her head. "No. A lady. She's in the wall." I laughed, thinking it was an imaginary friend. But Sophie started crying. "The lady's sad. She's crying." In the middle of the night, I woke to a noise. Sophie was sitting in front of the bedroom wall. "Sophie, what are you doing?" My daughter was talking to the wall. "Don't cry. I'll tell Mommy." I felt my heart freeze. "Who are you talking to?" Sophie turned around. "The lady in the wall. Her name is Caroline." Caroline. That was Mark's ex-wife's name. But there was no way Sophie could know that name. "How do you know that name?" My daughter answered with serious eyes. "The lady told me. She says she can't get out." The next morning, I talked to Mark. "Sophie says there's a lady in the wall. She says her name is Caroline." Mark's face changed. "Caroline?" I nodded. "Your ex-wife. How does Sophie know that name?" Mark suddenly got angry. "Stop it, Linda. Don't take a child's fantasy seriously. Caroline left me 5 years ago. She's gone." Mark's reaction was so strong, I felt uneasy. On the 3rd morning after moving in, Sophie was drawing on the bedroom wall with crayons. A picture of a large woman. I hurried to wipe the wallpaper. At that moment, the wallpaper peeled off. The wall underneath was a different color from the rest. It was clearly new wall. I touched the wall. Abnormally cold. And there was a faint smell. Sophie said, "Mommy, Caroline is there. Behind the wall. She says someone's coming to help today." I looked at my daughter. "Who's coming?" At that moment, police sirens blared outside. I looked out the window. But the patrol car drove off toward another house. I breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, I didn't know what I'd been afraid of. But the wall's strangeness didn't go away. That new wall. That smell. And Sophie's words. I made up my mind. I'd investigate myself. After Mark left for work, I opened my laptop. I typed Mark Thompson Caroline into the search box. The first hit was a news article from 5 years ago. Woman missing for 5 years, husband claims wife left home. I read the article with trembling hands. 5 years ago, Caroline Thompson went missing. Her husband Mark Thompson claimed, my wife left home. But her belongings, cell phone, wallet, everything was left behind. The police investigated but never found a body, and the case remained unsolved. I stared at the screen. This house. This was the house Caroline had lived in. This was the house she disappeared from. And Mark had never once told me about it. I called Sophie. My daughter sat on my lap. Sophie, tell me more about Caroline. What's she like? Sophie closed her eyes. She has brown hair. She's wearing a blue dress. A pretty dress. My body froze. The photo of Caroline on the day she disappeared that I'd found online. Brown hair. Blue dress. Sophie hadn't seen that photo. She couldn't have. What else did she say? I asked, my voice shaking. Sophie answered with a serious face. Caroline says Mark hurt her. She wanted to leave. But Mark wouldn't let her. He pushed her, she fell, and then she was put in the wall. Tears overflowed. Oh God. Sophie squeezed my hand. Mommy, Caroline's scared. She says Mark's going to hurt you too. We have to run away today. At 3 p.m., Mark suddenly came home. Linda, where are you? I hastily closed my laptop. In the living room. Why are you home early? Mark came in. He looked pale. We need to talk. I braced myself. What? Mark sat down and said, this weekend, why don't we go on a trip, just the two of us? My mother will watch Sophie. I was wary. A trip? We just moved. Mark said, I want to celebrate our new house. I booked a mountain cabin. Mountains. Mark hated mountains. Why so suddenly? Sophie's just settling in, I said, and Mark suddenly yelled, I'm trying to do something nice, why do you always suspect me? I stepped back. I'd never seen Mark this angry before. Mark went into the bedroom and stared at the wall. He saw where the wallpaper had peeled and his face changed. What happened here? I answered, Sophie drew a picture, and when I tried to wipe it, Mark cut me off. You touched the wall. Yes. But why? I asked, and Mark touched the wall and said, this wall is old. Fragile. Don't touch it anymore. I asked, Mark, why is this wall different from the others? Mark suddenly stood up. I have to go out. I'll be back for dinner. And he hurried out of the house. I made up my mind. Something's wrong. Caroline disappeared from this house. Sophie says she's in the wall. And Mark's behavior is too strange. I need help. But who do I call? The police. But I have no evidence. Who would believe my daughter's talking to a ghost? At that moment, Sophie said, Mommy, Caroline's saying someone's coming. Today, soon. I looked at my daughter. Who? Sophie answered, someone named James. Someone who's looking for Caroline. James? Who's that? I was confused. Sophie continued, a detective. Someone who never gave up. He's coming to find Caroline today. I looked out the window. Still nothing visible. But I decided to believe my daughter's words. Okay, Sophie. When someone comes, we'll be ready. At 5 p.m., I was waiting in the living room with my daughter. Mark still hadn't come home. Sophie was staring at the wall. Mommy, they're coming. Now. I asked, who's coming? Sophie answered, the police. Caroline says they're here. At that moment, police sirens blared outside. This time, they stopped in front of our house. I looked out the window. 3 patrol cars were parked in front of the house. There was a loud knock on the door. Police. Open the door. I opened the door, trembling. A middle-aged detective stood there. Are you Linda Mitchell? I nodded. Yes. What happened? The detective showed his badge. Detective James Carter. I have a warrant to search this house. I gasped. James? You're James. Carter answered with a puzzled expression. Yes. How do you know my name? I looked at Sophie. My daughter was smiling. My daughter said so. That you were coming. That Caroline told her. Carter's face tensed. Caroline? Caroline Thompson. I nodded. My daughter says Caroline's in the wall. In our bedroom wall. Carter took a deep breath. May I come in? Detective Carter entered the house and sat in the living room. The other officers waited outside. The detective spoke gently to Sophie and me. Mrs. Mitchell, how long have you lived here? 3 days. We just moved in, I answered. Carter nodded. Your husband? I felt my throat go dry. Mark Thompson. We've been married a year. But I just found out this was Caroline's house. The house she disappeared from. Carter sighed deeply. Yes. 5 years ago. I've been investigating ever since. I said, trembling, my daughter says strange things. That Caroline's in the wall. That Mark hurt her. Carter turned his gaze to Sophie. My daughter sat quietly. Sophie, can you tell me about Caroline? Sophie nodded. She's in the wall. In Mommy's bedroom wall. She's been there for 5 years. Waiting for Uncle James. Carter's hand trembled. For me. Sophie smiled. Yeah. Caroline said, Detective James didn't give up. For 5 years, every day, he looked for Caroline. Tears welled in Carter's eyes. That's right. I never gave up once. Sophie continued, Caroline says thank you. She can finally rest today. I remembered and said, Detective, there's one more thing. Mark's trying to take me on a trip this weekend. To a mountain cabin. Just the 2 of us. Very insistently. Carter's expression changed. Does Mark have life insurance on you? My heart almost stopped. Yes. $2 million. A year ago. When we got married. He said it was for Sophie's future. Carter stood up. You and your daughter need to leave now. You're in danger. I picked up my daughter and went outside. My body wouldn't stop shaking. 30 minutes later, Detective Carter came out. He looked pale. I asked, what did you find? Carter took a deep breath and said, there's a body in your bedroom wall. The world stopped. What? A human body. We believe it's Caroline Thompson. She's been there for 5 years. Exactly where your daughter said. I collapsed, holding Sophie. Oh God. God. Carter continued, that's not all. We found evidence on Mark's computer. Search history. How to cause a gas leak, undetectable murder methods, life insurance payout schedules. He was planning to kill you. This weekend. I held Sophie tight. Sophie, you saved us. Caroline saved us. Sophie looked up at me and said, Caroline's not sad anymore. She says you're going to be okay now. At 6 p.m., Mark came home from work. Seeing the patrol cars lined up in front of the house, the color drained from his face. He tried to run. But the officers were waiting. Mark Thompson, the officer said. Mark backed away. What's going on? Carter stepped forward. Mark Thompson, you're under arrest for the murder of Caroline Thompson. Mark shook his head. I didn't do anything. This is a mistake. Carter said coldly, we found the body. In your bedroom wall. In the place where you slept for 5 years. Mark collapsed to his knees. She was going to leave me. Take everything. I had to stop her. I stared at my husband. I had loved this man. Trusted him. But it was all a lie. You were going to kill me too, weren't you? This weekend. At the cabin. Making it look like a gas leak. Mark didn't answer. But his silence said everything. As the officers handcuffed Mark, Sophie said quietly, Mommy, Caroline's talking. I looked at my daughter. What's she saying? Sophie closed her eyes. Caroline says 5 years ago, she told Mark she wanted a divorce. Then Mark got really angry. I asked, and then? Mark pushed Caroline. Caroline fell and hit her head. Caroline was still alive. But Mark didn't help. Sophie's voice trembled. Mark waited until Caroline stopped moving. Then he put her in the wall. The tears wouldn't stop. Oh God. Sophie continued, Caroline was in the wall for 5 years. All alone. In the darkness. She was so scared. Caroline could hear everything. Mark sleeping. Mark bringing new women home. Mark marrying you. I hugged Sophie. But why today? Why did the police come today? Carter explained, 3 things came together. First, I've been pursuing this case for 5 years. I couldn't believe Caroline left home. Her belongings, phone, wallet, everything was left behind. Second, 3 days ago when you moved in, a neighbor, Mrs. Anderson, called me. She was Caroline's best friend. When she saw you and your daughter moving in, she feared the same thing would happen again. Mrs. Anderson approached, crying. I knew. That Mark killed Caroline, I always knew. But there was no evidence. When I saw you and your daughter moving in, I couldn't stay silent anymore. Carter continued, and third, Caroline's mother brought new evidence. An elderly woman appeared. Caroline's mother. My daughter wouldn't just disappear. Believing that, I hired a private detective. We investigated Mark's past. And we found it. He's done this before. I gasped. What? 15 years ago, Mark's first wife died in a car accident. Insurance payout, $1 million. 10 years ago, his second wife fell down the stairs and died. Insurance payout, $1.5 million. And Caroline. Mark had taken out a policy for $1.5 million 6 months before she disappeared. I realized. Mark took out $2 million of insurance on me. A year ago, when we got married. Carter nodded. Yes. And we found evidence on his computer. This weekend, he was planning to cause a gas leak while you and Sophie slept. I hugged Sophie. My daughter said, "Mommy, Caroline's not talking anymore." I asked, "Is she still there?" Sophie smiled. Yes. But she's smiling now. Caroline's not sad. She's not scared anymore. She can finally rest. At the police station interrogation, Detective Carter uncovered Mark's entire past. I read the report in the evidence room, trembling. 15 years ago, Sarah died in a car accident. Insurance payout, $1 million. But the accident scene investigation recorded many suspicious points. No brake marks. Sarah was an excellent driver. Why? 10 years ago, Jennifer fell down the stairs and died. Insurance payout, $1.5 million. But the coroner's report had question marks. The angle of the fall was unnatural. As if she'd been pushed. 5 years ago, Caroline treated as a missing person. But actually murdered and hidden in a wall. Insurance payout, $1.5 million. And me. A plan to fake a gas leak accident. Insurance payout, $2 million. $6 million total. In exchange for 4 women's lives. I closed the report. I felt sick. I had loved this man. Trusted him. Thought he would save Sophie and me. But he was only trying to use us. Carter came into the room. "Mrs. Mitchell, are you all right?" I shook my head. "I can't believe it. How didn't I notice? There must have been signs. He was too perfect. He rushed the marriage. Wanted to get insurance right away." Carter sat in a chair. "He's a professional. A con man and murderer. There's no way you could have noticed." I wiped my tears. But Sophie noticed. A 5-year-old child noticed when I didn't. "Sophie has something special," Carter said gently. "Without her, we wouldn't have found Caroline. And you," Carter chose his words. "This weekend, you and Sophie wouldn't be alive." I made up my mind. I want to testify. In court. I want everyone to know what he did. Not just Caroline. Sarah, Jennifer, and us too. The lawyer said worriedly, "This will be a painful experience. He'll try to damage your credibility." I shook my head. "I don't care. Caroline saved my life. At the very least, I want to make sure he can never do this again." The day of the trial. Mark wore a perfect suit and claimed innocence. "I loved all my wives. Their deaths were tragic accidents. As for Caroline, she left me. I don't know where she went." The prosecutor asked, "Then why was her body in your bedroom wall?" Mark answered, "I don't know. Someone must have put her there." The prosecutor said coldly, "For 5 years, you slept in that room. You didn't notice." Mark was at a loss for words. It was my turn to testify. My hands were shaking. But I remembered Sophie's face. My daughter saved me. Now it's my turn to fight. Mark told me to get life insurance. $2 million. For Sophie's future, he said. But I understand now. It was for his future. I looked around the courtroom. The police found evidence on his computer. Search history. How to cause a gas leak, undetectable murder methods, life insurance payout schedules. The courtroom murmured. I continued, this weekend, he was trying to take me to a mountain cabin. Just the two of us. Even though he hates mountains. Because that's where he planned to kill me. Faking a gas leak. And Sophie too. To leave no witnesses. One of the jurors wiped away tears. The prosecutor played a video. Sophie's testimony. My 5-year-old daughter couldn't appear in court, so it had been pre-recorded. Sophie in the video said, Caroline told me everything. That Mark hurt Caroline. That he was going to hurt Mommy too. But Caroline said if I told someone, we could stop Mark. The prosecutor asked, Sophie, how did you know the police were coming? Sophie smiled. Caroline told me. Today's the day. And they really came. The jurors were crying. The evidence was overwhelming. Mark's computer search history. His bank records. Insurance payouts from 3 ex-wives. Caroline's body. The wall construction records. Everything proved Mark's guilt. Finally, Mark broke down. It was an accident at first. When I pushed Sarah, she fell. But then I realized. About the insurance money. How easy it was. The courtroom fell silent. Mark continued, Jennifer, Caroline, they were all the same. They tried to leave me. So I stopped them. The prosecutor asked, what about Linda? Your current wife? Mark looked at me. She was different. At first, I thought I could really be happy. But when I saw the insurance policy, $2 million. And I thought, just one more time. I stared at my husband. The man I once loved. But I felt nothing anymore. Only emptiness remained. The verdict was handed down. 3 counts of first-degree murder. 1 count of attempted murder. Insurance fraud. Concealment of a corpse. 3 life sentences, no parole. As Mark was led from the courtroom, he stopped in front of me. Linda, I'm truly sorry. I really did love you. I looked up at him. No. What you loved was my life insurance. Mark was taken away. I would never see him again. When I left the courtroom, 3 women were waiting. Sarah's sister. Jennifer's mother. Caroline's mother. Sarah's sister said, he took my sister from me. 15 years ago. And I didn't know the truth. Jennifer's mother said through tears, I thought it was an accident. I blamed myself for years. Caroline's mother took my hand. My daughter saved your life. Even in death, she was protecting someone. I answered, I'll never forget Caroline. Sophie will always remember her too. The 4 women held hands. Families hurt by Mark. But now we stood together. Caroline's mother said, my daughter can rest in peace. Thanks to you. I looked up at the sky. Thank you, Caroline. Wherever you are, thank you. 2 months later, Caroline's funeral was held. Her body was returned to her family, and the day finally came for her to be properly buried. Caroline's mother approached me. Thank you. For listening to your daughter's voice. For believing. Thanks to you, my daughter can finally rest in peace. I answered, I wish I'd noticed sooner. The mother shook her head. You have no guilt. But Caroline knew. She chose you. She chose Sophie. She knew you would listen. At the cemetery, Sophie stood in front of the headstone. She placed a small flower and spoke quietly. Goodbye, Caroline. I'm glad you're not sad anymore. I hugged my daughter. Is she still here? Sophie shook her head. No, Mommy. She's gone. Caroline went to a better place. She said, thank you for being brave. 6 months later, we moved to a new apartment. Small, but safe and bright. The divorce was finalized, and I returned to my maiden name. Work was going well. Sophie made friends at kindergarten. She doesn't talk about the lady in the wall anymore. But sometimes she looks up at the sky and smiles. What are you smiling at? I ask, and Sophie answers, nothing. Someone said hello. I asked, Caroline. Sophie nodded. Yeah. Caroline says she's happy now. A year later, Sophie's 6th birthday. We're having a picnic in the park. The sun is shining, birds are singing. Sophie's running around laughing. I thought, we're finally safe. Really safe. Sophie came back and handed me a flower. This is for you, Mommy. I smiled. Thank you. It's beautiful. Sophie said, I want to put this on Caroline's grave. Of course. Let's go this weekend, I answered. Sophie looked up at me. Mommy. I answered, yes. Sophie said, I can't see Caroline anymore. But I think Caroline's watching over us. I think she's happy we're okay. I hugged my daughter tight. I think so too. I'm sure of it. I didn't believe in spiritual things. But my daughter did. And my daughter's belief saved our lives. Caroline waited in the wall for 5 years. For someone to find the truth. For someone to hear her voice. And my daughter heard. A 5-year-old's pure heart found the truth adults had missed. Now Caroline rests in peace. And we're alive because of her. A home isn't a building. A home is a place where you're safe and loved. And now we have a home. A real home. Looking up at the sky, the clouds moved and sunlight poured down. As if someone were smiling. I said in my heart, thank you, Caroline. Wherever you are, thank you. Sophie waved her hand. Look, Mommy. A rainbow. In the distant sky, a small rainbow arched. We held hands and headed home. To our new home. To our safe home. And we never looked back.